So, I saw this post from a spiritu trying to wrap my brain of what to do for today. And essentially, he was just talking about how he doesn't necessarily like how anime YouTubers don't be critical of shows anymore. Because a lot of the time when they do try to be critical of it, they get hated on like constantly and they get hounded for it. And that's the reason why people don't necessarily do it. Which, as someone who has, maybe, well, not gone to the realms of, oh, this show sucks, so boo, and all that type of stuff, and people come through from that, I can relate to this on a more so lolly type of level, obviously, because there has been plenty of times on this channel we have all seen, where we have gotten essentially hounded for because of lolly. We have gotten basically harassed over lolly and all that type of stuff, when in genuinely, I'm just out here just being like, it's not as bad as people make it out to be, because it's really not. Hell, it's also kind of crazy to see the misconceptions of how people can kind of think of the subject of it. Like, for example, when I talked about how, lolicons don't necessarily, like to just jerk off the lolly all day, they actually like to see other things. People genuinely in that comment section was like, no, that's how antis are. That's how some people legit believe. People were in Discord servers and being like, that's how some antis actually think. Which is crazy to me, because, bitch, I like to look at cosplay stuff, right? I like to look at other people kind of going in when it's just hot and nice, right? I like to look at other characters that isn't a lolly, like Kim Pine or something of the sort. I don't watch, Scott Pilgrim. I don't care, but I'll bang Kim. She about bad as hell, right? Instead of doing that lesbian kiss, put my dick between those two chicks and that'd be fine. But when it comes down to it, you get the dang point. Not everything is basically, like that for lolicons. But more times than not, you'll see people just harass them, get upset with them, and essentially be on some bull when it comes down to it, because they just refuse to accept that there is a different opinion out there that can be valid, but they just choose not to validate it, right? And that's essentially how a lot of these type of conversations go when it comes to not just lolly, but also with shows that people really enjoy and like. And when somebody be critical of it, and then that's when they started to hound them and jump them like it's the hood. It's not fun. And as the years kind of go by, especially like when I was younger, I remember seeing like a lot of these anime YouTubers getting hounded because of these different fan bases when it comes down to these shows and stuff like that. And it's never really that damn deep. Like, the only times I'm like it's deep, or like I can understand why somebody's mad, is when that very same anime YouTuber that you probably watch or whatever probably go out of their way to just be like, yeah, this show suck and you suck ass if you like this show, and just kind of call you out for it and then just go brutally ham with it, right? And that's understandable, right? I feel like, because that does feel like a personal attack when it comes down to it. It is a personal attack when it comes down to it, because it's like, dude, like, you didn't have to call the whole fan base out for liking something that you didn't like. And the show is regular and it's normal and whatever, but that one particular person called it out, called it shit, called you shit with your taste and everything. And essentially, yeah, that's grounds for people to come in after you, essentially, right? And it doesn't make a lot of sense. Nowadays, people don't do that because obviously they don't want to deal with that. And sometimes you get people that say something slightly wrong or just slightly, not something what people want to hear, and then they get hounded for it anyway. And it's just like, it is quite annoying. It is definitely quite annoying when that happens, though, right? Granted, I never experienced it myself, hopefully never do, but when it comes down to it, though, it is like one of those moments where it's just like, yeah, it does suck that you gotta kind of deal with that, especially when you ain't really, I guess trying to be on that type of time, essentially, right? But and honestly, I feel like that shouldn't stop you from being critical about things that you like or things that you want to be critical about. But you don't need to be an overall ass about it either, right? Because I could easily say, Ruby is a very extremely good example. I don't like Ruby's writing. I think Ruby's writing is terrible. That being said, am I gonna shit on you for liking Ruby? No, because you know why? I like Ruby's concept of what it could be. And that's how most people think. That's why there's so many alternate universe versions of Ruby in their cast when it comes down to it, because there's something there, but it's just not realized within the actual writing of the story, no matter what volume you go to. And that's just how it is, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and shit on RWBY completely, but I don't have to sit here and enjoy the writing, and I'll say that and stand on that hill forever, right? And that's the same way of people saying like, oh, MHA went downhill and all that type of stuff, right? Where I genuinely think MHA is fine, you know? And even if I didn't think it was fine, I would still be like, well, I don't really care for this and this, but at the very same time, you know, that's just me. I don't necessarily have to like it, but you could, and that's perfectly fine. Now, granted, the MHA fan base is psychopaths. All of them are, and that's just how it is. But when it comes down to it, though, if they were a regular fan base, that shouldn't have to come to blows with you as a creator. But a lot of times you do see that, and it's not really the greatest thing ever. Hell, there's plenty of people that play Genshin, and when they talk about a story quest and things that they like and don't like about it, and all that type of stuff, and the predictability, they get shit on it, even though they're right, even though sometimes they word shit in a terrible way. They're right sometimes, and when it comes down to it, that's just kind of how it is, right? And definitely there's one individual that is just completely negative and that just wants to ruin everything for everybody because F everyone besides him, but we're not going to go into that. But essentially when it comes down to it, it does, you know, it's like you can be critical again, but you can't necessarily just, you don't want to be an ass to everybody, because why would you want to do that, right? And that's all people are going to see for it, just be negative and things of the sort like that. But here's a good ass question to kind of think about though. Why does some anime YouTubers don't be critical? Like, why does it affect them more than others? It's mainly because they're trying to appeal to everybody, which is what everybody's trying to do online, right? But they're like already well known, and they're trying to appeal to a lot of people and such, right? And they care about their public image to a high end degree and things of sort like that. And so when they could run into that problem, they'll just straight up avoid it, right? And then not try to put themselves into any type of controversy, where someone like myself or another channel equal to mine or things of sort like that will jump in and we'll say what we'll say and then not really give too much of a damn about it, because bitch is our opinion. If we don't like something, we're not gonna like something. That's the equivalent of like Elfin Lead versus Redo a Healer. I don't like either show because I think both of them are terrible, honestly. But when it comes down to it though, for different reasons. One is just a gore fest, the other one is just needless, I won't say needless revenge, but it's just over the top revenge, honestly. And it's not something that's my cup of tea personally, right? Like, don't get me wrong, the booba of each show is amazing. But that being said, that's as far as a compliment I'm willing to give these shows, because there's not really much there. Why does everybody be an angry asshole, evil person in Elfin League for no reason? For literally, again, no reason. And then why is basically just, you know, we fall in this story with this guy with this revenge, and fairly understandably so, but at the very same time, it's so over the top. Also, again, I will still stand on this hill. They disrespected Blade when she should have been the one that getting violated the most in that damn show, when she should have been getting the best scene, and they didn't give her the best scene at all. It was dog shit, and I will never forget that show for that shit. So that's my whole thing when it comes down to it. But there is another point to this whole discussion I do think needs to be brought up, and that is how people like right now, don't really care for, you know, anime YouTubers for the most part, because they don't cross those lines. They don't necessarily bring those type of things up, but that's because they're scared of the result of, if they do, they could lose a lot of their like reputation and things of the sort like that, which very much understandable, and I absolutely get it. And it's like, if you don't need to sacrifice yourself, don't do it. But at the very same time, that basically makes you like everyone else. Again, there's a very much big reason as to why I decided to jump on Lolly and talk about it as much as I had, is mainly because no one else was doing it and I was bored. And so when it comes down to it, why not? And as time goes on, I'm just like, well, let's talk about it a bit more and see what else is in this place that no one else really brings up. That's why I'm not necessarily so afraid to bring it up, because it's like, yeah, if we didn't have Lolly, holy shit, we wouldn't have a lot of other things that was attached to it that pretty makes up 90% of anime, if I'm going to keep it very much a stack. So That's the reason why I like to explore it. Hell, even when it came down to the last video we talked about, the whole turns when it comes to Lolicon and Aricon and, you know, Heicon and all that type of stuff, it was just like, whoa, I didn't know all this stuff. This was actually very interesting to learn and all that, right? Which a lot of people in the comment section very much misunderstood the title of that video. Like, how did y'all miss that somehow? When I was talking about, oh, age matter when it comes to lolly, I meant like, oh, in the 80s, age matter. That's why the title was the way written, the way it was. How did y'all miss that? I'm not mad, but I'm just like, how do y'all miss that though? I'm very confused, right? How do y'all miss that? Please watch the video to read and have context, please. But the point is though, essentially, is that if these anime YouTubers don't want to sacrifice themselves or go on that, I guess, hill to stand there and to have their takes and die on that takes, they're not going to do that. And that's kind of the one thing I've really understood as time gone on, is that people online, content creators, no matter if you're an anime YouTuber or not, they play it way too safely. A lot of people play their shit way too safely. I'm not saying we need to have like disrespectfulness or just straight up like, you know, going on some weird shit, right? But I am saying that we do need to have more people to not necessarily play it safe and not necessarily be so business minded, so I guess like reputation minded and all that sort of stuff, because a lot of the stuff that you don't really see and a lot of the stuff that you don't really like get comes from places where it is a risk, right? Honestly, that's just kind of how it is, right? It's like honestly, even like when it comes down to just VTubing too, let's just add this into the boat. Why lolly VTubers are kind of good is because, you know, they do something that regular VTubers can't do, or they wouldn't want to risk themselves doing. And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, that's a nice little thing to have there. You don't necessarily, you know, have to enjoy just one thing. There's variety, and that's kind of like the whole point, right? If everybody's doing the same thing, you're losing out on that variety. That's why I choose not to do the same thing as everybody else does, right? And even though sometimes it's a hard time coming up with ideas half the time, it's what I like, you know? And of course I'm going to be critical of a show that I'm watching or something like that, because hey, I'm not going to sit here and hold my tongue. I never had. So when it comes down to it, I'm just going to keep going and just see where it ends up. And if I end up pissing off a fan base in the process, then so be it, I suppose. Like, you can be critical and you can do that, and I feel like you should be fine. Hell, I've done that to many topics before, especially something like Jaden Animations. Remember the times I've talked about her NSFW content and why it's fine and all that type of stuff? I got shitted on by her community like hella hard, but you know what? It's fine. I just let her avatar is fine. People bang it tons of time. I'm pretty sure if she was ass up, tooted up in front of your face, that's perfectly fine, and you'll dive deep into them cheeks. We ain't talking about the real life. No, obviously not. No doctor. But we talking about the just regular avatar that you normally see her associated with? Duh. Let's clap those booty cheeks or them pale ass cheeks real quick. That's just how it is. But that's, I guess, what I really wanted to talk about. Essentially, just like, yeah, you could be critical. You don't have to be an ass about it, but you could be critical of things, because that criticalness and, you know, standing out and being like, actually, you know, and being on that type of time, and actually burst more and better conversations if people can absolutely just handle it and think about it for 5 seconds. Right? And some of those conversations lead into other things that no one probably even knew existed, and that could be a really good thing for people to know, you know? So that's, I guess, what I'm really just trying to say. But hopefully you did understand and enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also on the socials, and let's donate to the channel. Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's YJ, sign off. Have a blessed day.